Hello, hello, hello. Here I am back after a few days of working doubles at my full time job. If you know, you know, I go to jail every day. Anyway, I'm back because it's been a rough couple days from the day that Erica and Candace both simultaneously. I think Erica tweeted it and then Candace retweeted it saying she's looking forward to it. But it's been a long weekend, I guess, from the initial tweet where Erica said she's going to meet with Candace and Candace retweeting it. It was a long weekend. I guess just waiting and anticipating on how this was going to go down, right? And I think also because the 15th, which was 2 days ago, was going to be the TPUSA, like their version of debunking things. So I found it a little, I guess, not ironic, but I don't know, weird that Erica was going to or plan to meet with Candace on the same exact date. So if you saw it, um, it was not it was not easy to watch. It was actually very difficult to watch. And the reason I say that was because number one, the first thing I did was read the comments, right? Everybody goes to the comment section and they were horrible. Um, this Erica and Candace interview, I think the hype was put out so much like out in the ether that people expected something that we didn't get. And when I say people, I include myself. So, not only do we get the tweet, we get the drama with TPUSA, right? Then we get the tweet that she put out, that Erica put out. Then we get the retweet. And then we get like the anticipation of this meeting essentially because nobody knew what was going to come out of it. Then the meeting comes, or then the her first episode comes out, which I'm assuming that Erica said she'd be okay with her just talking about it because Erica's tweet did say that in the future they'll talk about it in detail. But Candace went right to it, episode 1 this week, and the reason the comments I believe were horrible was because it wasn't like a normal Candace episode. And I'm somebody that's been following her since like 2020-ish, 2021. And there was a lot of things going on in this episode that she put out. I want to say it was yesterday. I don't even know. I worked 2 doubles. I'm a little confused. Today's Wednesday. But this was one of the very few, if only, episode that I noticed Candace stumbling her words. Like she almost kind of sounded like me. Like I'm not a professional podcaster. I do this for fun. I like to make videos and I like to engage with people with, who share the same views as me or different views. And it's just that this is like a hobby. I like engaging online. She's like a literal professional podcaster. And so seeing this her episode yesterday where she was stumbling on her words and a lot of people in the comments said that she kept looking to her right, like she looked almost, it looked like a hostage video. Guys, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you guys already have, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. It was really hard to watch. It wasn't easy to watch. It was very hard to watch. She stumbled her words. I feel like she was full of glee. She was like excited the whole time. I will say this, I kind of want to share it. I'm gonna go and find it. It was literally, for me personally, the best intro that she's had in her episode since she came back with the podcast. And let me see if I'm gonna play it with the volume because people went crazy on YouTube about it, saying that she sold out, she's a sellout, or the MK ultra'd her. I'm not gonna I don't believe any of that just yet. I do understand why people feel that way, but I do want to show the introduction because I laughed so hard and it seems like the internet. And I think also there was a lot of bots out there. There was the bots and there was the Zionist movement out there. They were like going hard, but it was clear that her intro was pure banter. She was being silly. She was being fun. And I found it to be funny as hell. So I want to play it in case you guys didn't see it because this intro is not a typical, like, Candace doesn't really, she's not ever this happy, but I'm gonna play it so you guys can see it because it was funny as hell.
Hey everybody, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody back at home. Happy Hanukkah to our greatest friends and allies. And, this is a good time to mention that Israel does have a right to defend itself. Tucker Carlson is Adolf Hitler, and TikTok does need to be purchased by the Mossad. It's just how I'm feeling today. I am not different. Maybe you are different. Welcome back to Candace. Okay,
Yeah,
you guys.
I'm sorry, but that was funny as hell because she's doing like the little dance. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. But anyway, the episode was crazy. She wasn't herself. I like to think that, or I'm sorry, my dog's coughing in the background. I've mentioned it before in some other videos that he suffers from a collapsed trachea. So my little guy struggles to breathe. But yeah, a few people made comments like where she was looking, how she was acting. I will say this, she was oddly very, very excited. And she did put out a video before this saying that she was going to do a video on Monday, but she was too tired. So she was going to put out a video, which was yesterday. So maybe she's overly tired. I know when I get tired, I'm tired as heck right now. We get too excited, or I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to understand where the heck this came from. So she said in the interview or in her podcast that her cousin Mia was present, her husband George was present, and he left at some point because he had to go attend to whatever it was that he had going on, which is the reason why she couldn't travel to Arizona. And she did make it clear today. So actually, let's get right into it. She did make it clear today on the Piers Morgan show, which is called Uncensored. This is her first interview after her first podcast episode, after her first meeting with Erica. So I don't know how Piers, I know that Piers last week, I sometimes watch him because there's a lot of Gaza Israel talk on his pod, and I like seeing the controversies that go on with that conversation. But Piers did say in his show last week that he was he was going to have a live stream with Candace. So this was already planned. So it wasn't like Piers landed this episode with Candace. It just so happens that in the interim, from the time of Erica and Candace having this agreement to meet up, her appearance on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show was already planned. And I have to tell you, yes, last night I was like, man, this is really hard to watch. I don't know what's going on. She's like either really tired. People were saying that she was on drugs, or she was either drunk, or she'd been MK Ultra, or they gave her that big money. She got the call. And then per usual, a lot of people took the clips of her saying Shabbat Shalom and was like, oh yeah, look, it's happening. And they didn't even break down that it was pure. It's abundantly clear that it was pure banter. She was just being silly. But when you continue to watch the episode, you see that there was a point, I think it was like at the 1 hour and 12 mark. I don't remember, but I'll put it in the description if I'm wrong. Where her producer Skylar, he's constantly like feeding her information in her headset, which is like a little tiny headphone. I don't know if he was feeding something to her, but around the 1 hour and 12 minute mark, she got a little confused where she was just like, and then she would just went into a joke. She was kind of all over the place. Candace, girl, I love you. I think I'm not giving up on you just yet. I don't think that you gave up on the people just yet, which a lot of people online believe that. But there was something definitely off with her. And I wouldn't be transparent if I just lied and be like, no, it's just a regular podcast. No, she definitely had something going on. It was different. However, I'm not going to discredit the time that she put into this investigation, because she's clearly not going to stop. Before we jump into the Piers Morgan, which just came out maybe like an hour ago, I just wrote a couple notes down because I did want to go over a couple things that I wasn't very pleased. I think what happened with this first episode post meeting with Erica was that it was very hyper focused on, if that makes sense. So pretty much all over X, all over Twitter, Instagram, whatever platform you use, everybody's talking about this meeting between Erica and Candace. It was like a big deal. It was a big deal for me. So I can imagine that it was a big deal for other people. So it's kind of like, when somebody tells you, oh, you have to watch this movie. This movie is so good. It's so good. And you're like, damn, is it that good? They're like, yeah, you have to watch it. The best movie of the year is going to win an Oscar. And then you watch the movie and you're like, It was good, but it wasn't, I don't think it's Oscar worthy. And it was because the hype that, people put into this movie and the opinions that they gave, you kind of like expected this, but then got that. I think that's what happened with this first episode post meeting with Erica, because everybody was going so hard on Candace. Like I read like maybe like 200 comments that were all, I unsubscribed, she got bought out, she's paid for, she's done, we no longer have anybody, it's us versus them. And I understand why people said that. If you have to watch the full episode in its entirety, which was the purpose of this video that I was going to do today before I have to go to my second job. But the reason I just wrote a couple notes that I want to talk about, because the reason that I'm not going to play the video is because she was just on the Piers Morgan show and it just debuted. It just came out an hour ago. And I think this is more of the Candace that we know. So I will go on the record and say, I think yesterday was one of her worst pod shows ever. And I think it was a combination of just being overstimulated. At one point I was like, damn, is she threatened? Is her family, has there been a threat made to her family? Because I felt like it wasn't her typical self. But then after seeing the Piers Morgan show today, I'm like, maybe not. But I will talk really quickly, if you guys missed it, about her first podcast episode after the meet. And one of the things that stuck out to me was that, according to Candace, so you had Erica and you had, I think his name is Justin Strife. He's like the COO of TPUSA, or Eric. I don't remember his name. So it was those two. It was her cousin Mia, and then it was Candace, and like I said, her husband, and then he later he departed. But according to Candace, Erica made it clear that one of the biggest issues that she had with Candace was that Candace told the people following her and the people that follow her podcast that nobody should donate to this godforsaken organization, which is pretty harsh, right? So she did say that. She's like, nobody should donate. There's a lot of like, whatever. I don't want to give false quotes, but she basically said, TPUSA is not what TPUSA used to be, and you shouldn't waste your money. And it kind of reminds me of when we're talking about the Israel and Gaza war. She said that she would rather, remember that time she said, I would rather my kids go to prison than go fight for this country, because these are all wars that could be prevented. It kind of gave me that vibe. So Erica telling Candace, like, my biggest issue was with you saying that people should stop donating to this godforsaken organization. That was wrong. So Candace agreed, which, if you think about it, you're backpedaling, which is fine, because we're all human and we all say things. Sometimes I say things that at the moment I feel like I'm 1,000% correct. And then in hindsight, when I take a step back, I'm like, man, I was out of pocket. I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe I misinterpreted somebody or misunderstood somebody and I just reacted, right? I'm very reactionary, if that's a word. I don't know if I made it up. But Candace did kind of like backpedal and said, yeah, I did say that. And it was a little, because I tend to go, when I tend to get mad, like I get mean, and basically saying like it was wrong for her to say that. I think, and obviously I have no proof and it's pure speculation, but I believe that after spending time with Erica, maybe perhaps, and you guys can comment, I know I'm going to get roasted for this, but maybe perhaps Erica was like, this is how you're destroying Charlie's legacy. The people that he worked so hard for and like convinced so hard to donate to his campaign. Not his campaign, it's his organization. You're undoing all the hard work, right? So I believe, sorry about that. I took a quick little break. I just got a phone call that I had to take. But yeah, so going back to my point, which I think this is where I was that Erica's biggest issue was the whole donating to TPUSA. And I feel like maybe Candace felt like, damn, like that is messed up. I did say something that would subsequently affect the mind of the donors and they might want to stop donating, which I'm kind of mad that she backpedaled a little bit, because we all believe that TPUSA is doing some funny money stuff, right? So if you believe that this organization is doing funny money stuff, then you probably shouldn't donate. But for whatever reason, she did backpedal on that. And I'm thinking that it's probably because she's doesn't want to get it too twisted with Erica and wants to like at least try to display that she's trying to be cordial. That was my take of that. I thought it was weird. I would have. That's one thing that I would have not taken back. Another thing was that Candace shared with Erica was that she had a problem with the whole stance on the Catholicism um, stance. Not saying that he was converting to, he was going to be a Catholic, but that they made it such a big deal of him liking the architecture of the buildings, and that's why he went to a Catholic church, and not saying this is that he actually was attending mass. I'm like, who? That's a non-argue. Nobody cares about that. Like, respectfully, I don't care if Charlie was visiting a Catholic church or going to mass. But for some reason, for Candace, that held value, and it's probably because of her conversion, or maybe because they actually did go really hard on her for that. And I know I sound like I'm defending her. I don't apologize for it, but I do apologize for, I guess, I don't even know. I don't apologize for it. But I feel like maybe because they went hard on her with the whole Catholicism thing, that she was like, no, well, we got to make this clear, because um that was a problem and everybody attacked me for it. Um, a couple things that she said about Erica, that she was like, yeah, this is what she told me, so I kind of accept it, was weird. And one of the things was, she said that she owned the lies. She said that there were certain things that were lies, but that she didn't know that there was a lie. For the big one was the text messaging, when she's like, I have his phone. There was never a text message saying that blah blah blah. Nobody threatened. He didn't say that he was afraid for his life, right? But then Candace says that after speaking to Erica, Erica's like, yeah, when you said that, I felt that you were lying, because I went through his iMessage and there was nothing there. And then as the conversation kept going, it was determined that those messages were in different apps, whether it was Signal. One of them actually looked like it was a regular WhatsApp, but whether it was Telegram, Signal, that those messages did in fact happen, but they weren't on his iMessages. That's why she said it was a lie. They came to a conclusion that that wasn't a lie. I feel like I'm Maury. That in fact is a lie. But no, they agreed that that wasn't a lie, that Candace wasn't lying, and that in fact he did get two text messages in whatever app stating that they were going to take him out. One thing that she said about Erica that I didn't agree with, I thought it was kind of BS, was that Erica kind of acted like oblivious to the messages that Blake Neff was putting out and Andrew Kovic was putting out. The big one that stuck out to me, that Erica supposedly allegedly that Candace said, Erica said that people thought it was going through upper management before the tweets were sent out, and they never were. This was actually just Andrew tweeting on his own and Blake tweeting on his own. And the big one that stuck out to me that I didn't like was the Man of Steel, that he spoke to his surgeon. So like, according to Candace, according to Candace, Erica didn't know that Andrew Kovic was going to put that tweet out, that he's the Man of Steel and that he saved other people because his skin was so healthy. So that's weird, because that's a big claim to put out in the ether, a big claim to put out to your millions of followers, and then say, yeah, I didn't know that he was going to put that out. Candace said that she'll accept that and she'll believe it because that's what they're telling her. She can't prove otherwise. I think it's also BS coming from Erica. Another thing I didn't like was the whole Barry Weiss. We knew the whole Barry Weiss thing was preempted. Like, she knew the questions. People that were in the audience that reached out to Candace days prior told her she had the questions before they were asked. And sometimes where if they didn't like the way they answered the question, they would re-record it. And Erica said to Candace, allegedly, that when it came to the podcaster Candace Owens, that she didn't know the direction that Barry was going towards. And I think that's a lie. I think that if she didn't know that was the direction that Barry Weiss was going in, then that reaction she'd had would have been a different one. It wouldn't have been a reaction of anger. It would have been a reaction of surprise. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? If she didn't know that she was gonna assert that Candace Owens is making her business, or she's making all this money for her business from the lies, right? She said that she was lying, which we all know Candace, she had nobody's been able to call her liar because they're not debunking or giving her an honest rebuttal on what she's saying. So when Erica told Candace, and Candace obviously said on her podcast that she didn't expect that conversation to go, I don't believe it, because her first reaction was to go do the stop, instead of saying, or instead of just looking surprised. So I thought that was BS as well. I do not like that. I also, here's the thing, guys. I feel like it's only been one episode. So because it's so fresh and it was so hyped up, it's almost like going to the job interview for the job that you want. You're having this meeting. I feel like she consumed a lot of information and she just hasn't put it all out there yet. I could be wrong. She never brought up the Doge question. Why did Doge, two questions for that matter. Why did Charlie seek a Doge like audit for his company? And the second part of that question is, why was it canceled? Candace never spoke about that. But let's be fair, her podcast episode was a little over an hour. It was too much information to put in one. I know I'm going to get roasted in the comments. I get it. I understand. That's cool. But never mentioned the Doge questions. Never mentioned the stance on Israel. Because if anything, Erica went harder on Barry Weiss's interview about anti-Semitism and all the talking points. So that was kind of weird that she didn't bring that up, that towards the time, leading up to his passing, that he was not happy with the Jewish donors, and that he needed to, what was the quote that he said? He needed to go take a step back from the Israel cause, right? And then the simple question of the federal narrative, the federal government's narrative about what happened. So Candace explains that the whole purpose, what she wanted to get out of this meeting was essentially convinced that it was Tyler Robinson. And I talked about it in my other video. What they're pushing, she just confirmed that the attorney, because they ended up calling the attorney, Erica ended up calling one of the attorneys that's working on the case, to just say, hey, I guess what Candace was saying is, you can tell me what you have, what tangible evidence you have that says this was Tyler Robinson, so I can shut up and I can tell my viewers and I can tell my followers, guys, we have to wait, but I'm telling you, I had it wrong. Tyler Robinson did do this, but you guys are not giving me anything. So Erica got her attorney on the phone, and basically what the attorney said was almost mirroring what Andrew Kovic said, which is what's in the affidavit and what's in the charging record document, rather. So in my last little video that I did, I always say little for everything, I don't know why, but the last little video I did, I talked about how when you read the charging documents, which I have it, in a Word format, I downloaded it. If you want to just, I don't know, shoot me an email or something. But there's nothing tangible that says Tyler Robinson. Like, I really feel that Tyler Robinson is going to get off. When they expressed remember they said he was walking weird because he couldn't bend his right leg, that there was something in his pant leg that was consistent with that of a rifle. They didn't say, oh, we saw the rifle like peeking out of his jeans. No, they said that there was something in his jeans consistent. There's nothing tangible that says, yeah, this guy's going to prison. So essentially when Erica got when Erica got the attorney on the phone, he's like, yeah, no, this is all we have. So it didn't make the case, the federal narrative, better, right? It just made it worse. What else? There was a couple things. Let me see. I feel like oh, another thing. I was actually disappointed in Candace for this one. Harpole, the guy that made it. I'm sorry, my dog is coughing again. The guy that made it, that he was on the Sean Ryan podcast that everybody was questioning. I thought he was full of shit also, excuse my language. So Candace said that Erica stated, come here, buddy. Maybe he wants to make an appearance. Let me see. Hold on. We have a special guest. This is Puppy Rogan. This is my old man, and he's struggling right now. So this is why he's on with me. So I do apologize for the sound. Sorry, guys. I discovered that there's a pause button now. Like not now, but I discovered that I can pause it and go. So it's probably gonna look like crap when I post this video, but that's okay. Yeah. The other story that bothered me was the Harpole, right? The guy that ended up on the Sean Ryan podcast, where Candace claims that Erica stated that she didn't know he was gonna do this show. And then Candace said, I don't believe that he works. Candace stated, I don't believe he works for them anymore. And I was disappointed because it was such a blanket comment because she could have very easily verified, just like she vets everything else. She could have very easily vetted and verified if, in fact, he's still part of the security detail. I think he's the owner of the company, if I'm not mistaken. But her saying, like, I don't think he works with them anymore, you could have fact checked that and that would have gave it some validity, I guess is the word. So I did not like that. I didn't like that Erica stated that she did not know he was going to be on that podcast, and that that was kind of him trying to save face. I thought that was a weak argument. That's pretty much it. I have a bunch of oh, another one that I thought was kind of like, I feel like Candace was trying to buy time. And I love the girl. You guys know I love Candace always. I think she was trying to buy time on several occasions where she kept bringing up old stuff that we already seen, like the Andrew Colvett tweet of the Man of Steel tweet. Like she read it out loud. And it's like, we already know what it says. We know that it's BS. You don't have to show us that. Then I think she read a Blake Neff tweet as well. We're like, we already been there, done that. Like, give us some substance. But the fact that Rob McCoy doesn't even work for TPUSA, Rob is just like the pastor from TPUSA. It sounded like he's not even employed with them at all. He's just a pastor, and he happens to be Mikey McCoy's father. And then she also emphasized that one thing she got out of it was the call logs and Mikey's real name. I also felt like it was kind of like not a distraction, but like, oh, hey guys, I got this information and I got this information, except the information she was putting out there. For me personally, didn't need it. I didn't care to know that Mikey's real name was Michael. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I felt like she was just trying to kill time during the podcast. But I do want to go in and show some highlights of the not highlights, but some video of the Piers Morgan, because it did just come out. And I feel like this is the pod after the pod after the meet where I recognize the real Candace, the Candace that's not pushing back. And let me be honest, Piers Morgan was kind of he was obnoxious. And I find him obnoxious sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's like, dude, like, you have no argument. All you're doing is interrupting. He kind of did it with Nick Fuentes where he thought he had this aha moment, which was a good episode. But he tried it with Candace, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't sure if she was gonna be able to handle it after what I saw on yesterday's pod. And he was coming in hot, boy. The thing I didn't like about Piers is that he's a journalist for what, 30 something years or 30 plus years, 20 plus years. And you can clearly see that he had this. He was just reading. A lot of these people that want to take, I'm not saying he wants to take her out, but he definitely wanted a controversial episode. A lot of these people that are talking all this shit, like the Tim Pools and like the crazy Loomers, Laura Loomer, all these people, they don't even watch Candace's podcast in its entirety. They don't watch a full episode. So when they say, oh, the Egyptian planes, oh, the Israelis, oh, the French Legion, whatever it's called, they're only going on little like opus clips, like 5-minute or 5-second clips. So I can tell that Piers Morgan thought, kind of like Erica, it's almost reminding me of the Barry Weiss interview. Erica thought she ate with those statements and she thought she had mic drops, and Piers thought he did the same thing, and Candace came with the heat. I was concerned. I thought that after yesterday's episode, it was gonna be a disaster. But no, thankfully, after yesterday's episode, unless, I mean, I don't know when Piers, I mean, it just dawned on me. I don't know when Piers and Candace, I don't know when they recorded, but we do know that Erica and Candace met on Monday, and today's Wednesday. So Piers' show came out today. I don't think he does a live. So anywhere from that time span. So I'm just wondering, I guess, if the Piers Morgan episode, if that actually was recorded before Candace's episode yesterday or after, and it was recorded today, because these are two different Candaces. And again, I do think she was overwhelmed with her because she does go live, but she came in, she slayed, she looked great, she sounded great. It's the Candace that we're used to watching. And I'm telling you right now, Pierce was not cutting her any slack. He was going hard on her. So I'm gonna put it on the screen. I'm gonna show a couple minutes. Because I'm already 30 minutes in. But just so you guys could see, because this just came out. So let's check it out together. Let me just want to make sure that the volume's on. Guys, I'm such a rookie at this. I do this for fun and I use StreamYard, which is great. But because I am a rookie and I don't really know what I'm doing, sometimes if I don't click like the also share audio, you won't hear it. So just making sure that I'm doing that. Please don't come at me. I do this for fun, but let's watch it.
And then I pushed back and I said, what's clear? The affidavit? That's all you guys have? And I did tell him, if you would never be my lawyer, because it's just, a lawyer that's just kind of giving you adjectives, and I don't need a cheerleader. I need someone to be practical and to say, we don't have anything yet. I think the communication should be, we are hopeful that throughout this investigation, we are going to uncover more evidence that links Tyler Robinson to this crime. I do feel confident that he was involved in some capacity on that day. As I have said many times on my show, I was the one who broke the story that he was at the Dairy Queen throwing out clothes, a local Dairy Queen, throwing out clothes in a nearby cemetery. And so I do think he was involved, and multiple people were involved that day. And I think he did pick up clothes. I had communication with Lance's family. I had communication with Tyler Robinson's family. And for some reason, Lance is being protected, which I find to be very strange. His own family thinks he's guilty of more, and they find.
At this point, she's like literally defending her stance, and it's because Pierce was giving her a hard time, like, oh, you have all these conspiracies, and you basically saying, calling her crazy without calling her crazy. He was trying to be polite about it. So she's literally wasting her time all over again, explaining things that she's already said on her podcast. But because people like Pierce Morgan and Laura Loomer and all these people that want to question her or attack her, they don't know that all this was already discussed on her pod.
And it weird that the feds kind of glossed over him, almost as though he was a Fed operative, like he was working on behalf of them. And we've caught the feds have lied a lot. It's just a fact. Turning Point USA people have lied a lot. That is a fact, which they have agreed to. They said that these were mistakes, but they, whether a mistake or not, the public was lied to. So this obviously, matters deeply to me. And it's just absurd that people would think that I'm doing this for clicks. I knew Charlie. Charlie and I are very close. And it has been one of the most disgusting things ever that people first and foremost tried to start this psychological operation that Charlie and I hadn't spoken since 2019. They've lied about virtually everything that I've said on my podcast. I'm not going to let this go. Okay. We don't live in a country that is the embodiment of democratic principles. If Charlie Kirk gets publicly executed and the media apparatus is doing everything they can to cover the tracks, I would say to cover the tracks by demanding that there is no further inquiry into what happened on that day. Right, that is not a country that I can get behind.
Let's get to some of the details, because
here he's gonna try to go ham, but I was a little concerned. I'm not gonna lie.
It seems to me you've put up a lot of theories, but a lot of them don't seem to have a clear conclusion from you about what you actually think happened. I mean, you've been all over this now ever since Charlie was killed. What do you believe happened to him? Who do you think killed him?
So I can't tell you definitively who pulled the trigger. I'm not going to lie to audiences and just put something out there that's not real. But what I can say is I feel convinced that the feds were involved. I can tell you that. I think the feds were involved in staging a cover-up. I think Kash Patel knows what happened and did not happen on that day. I am convinced by me being told by people that are feds that he is not acting right and that he is not wanting to share any information. Just a couple of people are allowed to even see anything. A Fed told me that they can't even touch the Charlie Kirk file without risk of being fired, and that he's grown increasingly mad. the US Marshals that were there when they were doing the quote unquote manhunt for 33 hours said that Kash Patel effectively sent them on a wild goose chase, which is what was signaled to the public when he said, we got him, and it was actually the wrong person. And so it caused people to stop looking because they were convinced that they had the shooter. They felt that that was in order to allow the real perpetrators of the crimes to get away.
No, but that could just be the fog of the immediacy of these things. We've seen it at Brown University. Exactly the same thing. They thought they had the killer. They thought they had the killer. It turned out to be the wrong person. Right? It doesn't mean there's any great conspiracy by the feds to cover anything up. And again, even if what you're saying is true, I don't know. Maybe you're right. If what you're saying is true, what is it they're covering up? You've so far intimated or inferred something weird involving Egyptian planes. So, well, you know,
is it me or does that not piss you off that he says something weird involving Egyptian planes? That just points to me that just like Erica, I'll give you my flight logs. I wasn't on an Egyptian plane. It's these talking points of people who don't watch the episodes, who don't watch the pod and don't see the timelines. They don't understand that what she's doing is just questioning everything. So it's like, oh, the Egyptian, it's like at this point, it's like a talking point to try to make her look crazy, I feel like.
What's that about? You've inferred perhaps Israeli involvement in some way. You've certainly inferred a lot of Turning Point USA involvement. That's a lot of people getting involved here in the murder of Charlie Kirk, potentially. But what I'm really curious about is, given you've been all over all this and you've been airing all these theories, well, which one is it? It can't be all of these things. Is it somebody?
Well, of course,
is it someone at Turning Point USA? I mean, who do you actually believe was behind this?
Of course, it can be all of those things. And what's really ironic here is that there's a clip of Charlie in the last months leading up to his death where he speaks about the JFK assassination. And he says that multiple countries were involved, multiple people were involved, the LBJ was involved, the feds were involved. And he's correct. That is what it means. When there is a conspiracy, there are multiple people that are involved. Of course, there's not one person on a grassy knoll who shot JFK.
Well, it might have been that.
There are people who had to agree to it. There had people who would have had to. The Dallas police were involved.
Candace,
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question.
But my point is,
why aren't you just going to point to one person? That to me, even that seems like a part of telling people not to believe their own gut. Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been multiple people involved. There had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit in having this happen. Now, who knows what their motivations are? Doesn't mean maybe this person's like, hey, I'm going to help you.
Hang on. Okay, let me stop you. Hang on. When you say obviously somebody at Turning Point, you are accusing right now people that worked with Charlie Kirk at the company he built, which is now run by his widow. You are directly accusing people in that company of being complicit in his murder, right?
I want to just be very clear connecting that dot. So I said that when there is a conspiracy, of course, there are going to be multiple people involved. So applying that same logic to JFK, right? Knowing, as I do, and as Charlie did believe that LBJ was involved, which then implicates the feds as having been involved, which then implicates the Dallas police station as being involved. I believe Israel was obviously involved, that they were the ones that wanted him dead for saying that what is now AIPAC should have to register under FARA. So there's motive. There are people that have to be involved on the ground that day. There are people that have to be willing to allow the perpetrators to get away. There has to be media that's complicit. And that's what literally Operation Mockingbird was. It was established.
But you know the problem?
Media is a big one. We all know that. And then also that also includes content creators. So we're people, content creators and people who consume information from content creators. That's why it's important for us, the viewer, people who are fans of Candace, people who are fans of, TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, to have our discernment and be able to decipher what is good for us and what is bad for us. Because I found myself like, oh my God, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this. And we're consumed in this information. It's like, where are we getting the information from? So she's right. Media has a huge, how many media networks are attacking Candace? And then you have the Tim Pools, the content creators going after her. You have the Laura Loomis, the typical Zionist, the Beanie Shapiros of the world. But she's onto something now, and I feel like that's the Candace that we're used to, and that's the Candace that we appreciate.
The problem, Candace, here's the problem.
Well, hang on. It was established.
Yeah, but here's the problem with everything you're saying.
In this massive cover-up.
You keep saying, and this is where people think you're prone to endless conspiracy theories for whatever reason.
Okay.
Is you keep using the phrase, they have to have been involved. So by that yardstick, what you're saying is with JFK's assassination And we recently had a lot of the files released, which did not conclusively prove any of these things, right? Now, again, I don't know what happened to JFK, but the one possible...
Her smile is everything because she's smiling like, oh my God, he's a sheep, or he's pretending to not know. But I think she knows that he knows. And if you know, you know. We don't know, but we know.
...ability you've not ruled in is it was just as simple as Lee Harvey Oswald. It might have been. We don't know. Right, so when you say the media has to have been involved, Lyndon Johnson has to have been. But my problem is you're stating all these things as facts.
We can't do 63. It's such a nonsense that to say that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting.
You don't know that.
That's just such a nonsense. Like, yeah, no, I do know it was not Lee Harvey Oswald acting by himself, and then that required national security to lock down the files, and that required the feds to impart, the CIA to impart Operation Mockingbird to convince the public that it was, you can't go against, there's a grieving widow, don't look further into it, don't believe your own eyes.
But let me just say, this is your, Candace,
it was a grand conspiracy that killed JFK. And I am going to say that confidently. And I just think we have to grow up. We have to grow up. We can't keep pretending Lee Harvey.
And I think that this is the problem with a lot of people. Like, I consider myself a truth seeker. I'm just a girl that works 2 jobs and I like to record videos. But people who want to know the truth and want to do, their own research and kind of put pieces of the puzzle together, or like pinpoint stuff together, this is what they do. They'll take their the narratives. Like when she said, "No, we're not going to do 63." You guys know what she meant. She meant 1963. This isn't Magic Bullet 2.0. This is John F. Kennedy. We're not falling for it. This generation is not falling for it. He's a boomer, if I'm not mistaken. So he's probably like, no, maybe it was just Lee Oswald. That was it. Harvey Lee Oswald, no one else. And she's like, So that's the narrative. It's like old legacy media versus like new, like, I guess, independent media, I will call it. She's about to go hand. I think.
JFK. Fine. We can't keep doing that.
That is your opinion. Today's show is sponsored by
guy always does the damn
of the Optimum Day and Optimum.
He does his little sponsors or whatever. I'm not gonna make you guys watch that because it is annoying. I forward it every single time. It's like a weight loss one for people in the UK. All right, so I'll go back on the screen. Here we go. And now let me go.
It's an opinion.
No, that's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It's a fact.
It's not a fact.
It's a fact.
The whole reason there are still...
Is it me? Does anybody love that? It's a fact. It's a fact. Because he wants to basically say, like, what if it was just Harvey Lee? What if it was just Harvey Lee Oswald and that's it? She's like, no, we're not doing this again. And I love that she's not falling for it.
Conspiracy theories about JFK's assassination. None of this is a fact. You are floating it as your theory.
Because the feds
are
never going to admit to their own crimes. That is the reason we're still discussing it.
That may be the case, but you can't prove that.
Yeah.
Is that not the Candace that we love? That's the Candace that she's back. Maybe she had a rough day yesterday. I'm hoping that she wasn't bought out. But that's the Candace that's like, no, bro, we're not doing this. What are we talking about here? Love it. I'm here for it.
Well, I can prove common sense that Lee Harvey Oswald did not stand on a grassy knoll and assassinate a president. And LBJ, like Charlie says in that clip, which people should go pursue.
Yes, I know Charlie
all
said
of the
that.
weird things that happened that day that were unusual, and LBJ decided not to ride that day. And then suddenly he reversed course on all of JFK's policies, and he was fighting AIPAC. Israel killed JFK. Now, going back to your point about Turning Point USA and the ridiculous idea that implicating, this is a $100 million organization. Common sense. If this was not even a high-profile political assassination, and this was just a guy who worked at a company that was $100 million, right? Common sense inquiry is, was there a financial motive for this person to be dead? Okay. This is like Sherlock Holmes 101. And this is what I mean when I say that the public no longer trusts the media because you're acting us to be stupid. And we don't want to do that. We actually don't want to pretend that we're clinical idiots who can't assess things and go, oh, there could be a massive motive here to have Charlie dead, especially when it seems very strange that Bibi Netanyahu, when nobody even had a clue of what happened, this guy's doing the rounds on Fox News and saying, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That's kind of weird. Did you feel compelled to jump on to Piers Morgan's show and say, just so everybody knows, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk? Why would he say that? Why was he so involved as somebody who's fighting a 97,000 front war?
Candace, I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying.
Look how triggered he's getting. He's trying to, anytime she has a valid point, I feel like he's like interjecting and cutting her off.
So when you say that
Yes.
somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who was?
I believe that there were multiple people at Turning Point who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up of what happened to Charlie on that day.
No, but who
I've
was
been
involved in
very-
his murder?
I didn't say that they murdered Charlie.
You said
My
that
show,
people
I've
at
been very
Turning
clear.
Point were complicit in his murder.
No, my exact sentence that I said was that there were people at Turning Point who are engaged in a cover-up.
No, you didn't.
I believe
Sorry,
that
you didn't.
thoroughly.
Candice, you didn't say that. You said literally.
I did say that
they
on
were,
my entire
You said there
show.
were people at Turning Point complicit in
No.
his murder.
Okay.
That's what you said.
When you and I were discussing, that's why I said, let's go back. I was applying the logic of a conspiracy to JFK. I said, okay, if JFK, you have people that are complicit. Of course,
Let's
if you
forget
apply that
JFK.
logic, if there
Let's
is a
forget JFK.
conspiracy, there's going to be multiple people that are going to be complicit by the time, in order for a large stage murder to
But
happen.
you specifically
so
said, you didn't say
of
complicit in
JFK.
a cover-up. You
No,
said complicit
okay,
in the
let-
murder. Because I said,
Okay,
who
I'm
at Turning
He's
Point
getting
was
let me
something.
involved
clarify for you.
in his murder? And
Let
you
me
said,
clarify for you. Okay, you can keep saying what I said, or you can listen to what I am saying.
okay.
When I was
Ooh.
using the analogy of JFK and we were connecting it, I was basically pushing back on you because you were suggesting that, all of these people being involved would be crazy. So I was applying the
No, I
analogy
said
of
I
what
don't
happened
know.
to JFK. Well, you actually, if you go back and
I
listen,
said I
were,
don't know.
suggesting that a
I said
conspiracy.
you don't know
okay, well,
either. You're floating theories.
when we started talking about the
you're
JFK
perfectly
thing,
entitled. Listen, let me make it clear.
Piers, I really think you're not holding
Is anybody finding him obnoxious at this point? Like, I am a little bit.
on to your thoughts here
Candice, let me,
correctly. Okay,
let me,
you're
let me
not
spell
holding on
out
to
my
your
thought
thoughts.
very clearly
When we
to you.
started talking
Let
about
me
JFK,
spell- hang
the
on,
implication
Candice,
that you were
hang on.
making
Let me
was that it
explain
was
my thought to
crazy to
you.
suggest that multiple
Let me
people could have
explain
been
my
involved
thought
at
to you.
different levels.
Candice.
I was then connecting the dots and saying that in
Okay.
order for the JFK assassination to happen, there had to have been tons of people that were complicit,
I understand. I heard what you
Maybe
said.
you're the person who takes the cameras down. Maybe you're the
I
person
understand
that
what you're
told him to
saying,
drive that
Candice.
day. Maybe you're LBJ. So they're not all complicit in the murder,
Right.
but they're all at different varying stages involved in the cover-up,
Okay.
right? So that's what a grand conspiracy actually is.
Okay.
And I do believe, so you don't have to go back and we don't have to go through it. I'm telling you what I think about Turning Point. I am very known for being honest about what I believe. I'm not exactly a person that you got to pull teeth on.
Sure.
I believe that there are people at Turning Point who are engaged in covering up what happened on that day.
But were
I
any
have
of them
named-
engaged in the planning of the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't know how it was planned. Absolutely, I can't make that. I cannot confidently make that statement. I can say confidently that I know they're engaged in the cover-up because I've been investigating what happened on that day and what transpired thereafter. I've been clear. I've named those people on my show. I've said they are engaged in a cover-up and I've listed the lies. So you don't have to try to make something out of what I didn't say. I tell you what I think. It's already controversial. We don't need to get more controversial, okay? Do I think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger? No. Obviously, I don't think someone at Turning
Do you
Point
think
pulled the trigger. We
anybody
don't
at
even
Turning
know
Point
who did pull the trigger. So how could I say that they're...
Did anybody at Turning Point, in your opinion, know that Charlie Kirk was going to be murdered?
There is specifically 2 people at Turning Point USA, and I have communicated that information to Erica and Justin Strife, that I would not be surprised if they had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk being assassinated.
But do you have
Now,
any evidence
I'm
for
not
that?
going to name... I am not going to name those people, okay? Because it's not right for me to name those people until I know for a fact that they did.
Did you give the names
but-
Did you give the names to Erica?
Yes.
So
I absolutely did. I
you
said I
gave
would,
the names to Erica of 2 employees, current employees at Turning Point, who you believe were involved in the preparation for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Is that what you're saying?
I told them that if I were in your shoes, these would be 2 employees that I would look further into.
And
That's
what
I
evidence
said.
do you have that they had any prior knowledge of the murder?
He's flip-flopping. First he said that, do you believe there's anybody in TPUSA that had knowledge of the murder? And then he said that they were part of the murder. And then he went back to complicit in... No, I'm sorry. Then he went back to having forward knowledge about the murder.
Because I don't have concrete evidence is the reason why I'm not naming them. So I've been
So you've got
responsible.
no
I'm not
evidence,
saying,
but you're telling the widow that these 2 people may have been involved in the murder. But You see the problem?
Well, what the evidence for it is people that there is not concrete evidence. It's like you're trying to get me to say something that I never said and then asking me to defend it.
No,
I'm not
asking
saying
what
it.
evidence
Like, let's
you've
actually
got.
go to, you're asking me privately, did I communicate to them that I think you should look further? That's called an investigation, Piers. Okay. So what you're doing is a strategy of like, if somebody dies, you're saying to the police, you can't ask any questions about anybody unless you have concrete evidence. We're at the stage of investigation.
I'm not saying
yes,
that.
you can.
I'm
and
not
let me
saying
give
that.
people in the public the permission to do this. Follow your instinct. If you feel something is off, keep asking questions
No problem.
until you get concrete evidence. And when you have concrete evidence, you should name those people.
No
I don't
problem.
have the concrete
But
evidence.
you have named
I
other
find
people.
their inconsistencies.
Okay. But you have named other
I'm trying
people.
to answer, Piers, you can't ask me questions. You can't ask me questions. Let me finish it. I have communicated to them that their inconsistencies make me uncomfortable. I have communicated to them that somebody else who is a third party gave me some information that I am not yet comfortable as I am vetting it, giving it to the public, because that's the responsible thing to do. These are private citizens. And that if I were in their shoes and had more access to information, I would go down that route. Okay. Unless I am fully confident that they actually did have something to do, like here is the smoking gun, I'm not going to name those people.
Okay.
But the people I have named thus far are people that I believe are engaged in a cover up. Like I said, hold me accountable for what I have said.
Let's talk about one of those people. Let's talk about one of those people because
she's valid right there. Hold me accountable for what I have said. Don't look for an explanation for something I haven't said. And I think that's a mic drop, if I say so myself, because he's been trying to they go on for a bit in regard, like they keep up with that for a little bit. He gives her a hard time. I'm gonna forward a little bit more. I wish that it just came out at this point, probably came out 2 hours ago, but they don't have the highlights at the bottom, so I'm just gonna go forward a little bit.
Why are you doing that? Regarding the Egyptian planes, that's a fact. Why are you saying she said that there was a military Egyptian plane on the ground that day? There was. In fact, there were two. So why are you pretending that that's like a weird thing to notice? And that is why people have been flagged about these planes. To his other,
let me ask you about the planes.
I'm never allowed to answer a single question that you say in entirety before you move on to the next question.
You can't just keep talking ad infinitum. I'm allowed to ask you another question.
No, it's called answering. You just read an entire statement of multiple points of blanks. I got to the second point, and you're like, let me ask you a question.
No, I want to ask you. No,
Piers, you already asked me a question. I'm trying to answer the question that you asked.
No.
Does anybody agree that this is the Candace that we're used to seeing? That wasn't the Candace from yesterday's pod. I think yesterday she had a rough one.
Oh, I want to ask you a follow-up specifically about the Egyptian planes, given you've now addressed
Your
it,
smirk.
which is, where is the evidence that any of these Egyptian planes were tracking Erica Kirk?
I am going to be publishing the full document because there's not even just 2 planes. There's actually 4 planes that have been flying in, and I should be more thorough because I realize that the spreadsheet I posted people.
Kirk.
You know what's messed up? I feel like he doesn't know. He obviously he doesn't watch the podcast. Obviously, his team wasn't ready for this. It's Barry Weiss all over again, and he's using the Egyptian plane as like a crazy conspiracy. The Egyptian plane, like he has no idea about the tracking that she's correlated with the times that these people have been in the area when the planes were. So he just keeps badgering her. Let's go a little bit forward.
Explain that slowly.
Yes, I'm going to explain it to you slowly because I had a huge run-in, for example.
This is just like a talking point.
No, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. When Sandy Hook happened and Alex Jones began weaponizing the Sandy Hook tragedy and weaponizing the grief of the poor parents
of next year, because they're not going to get away with what they did to my friend Charlie Kirk.
Audience, therefore make you the most amount of money. And people have, as you know.
Yeah, sorry guys, I forwarded it and then rewinded it a little bit. At this point, basically, he's going for the jugular now. You know, what's been the biggest thing that people are mad about her investigation? Nobody's saying, hey, thank you for trying to find out the truth. They're saying she's only doing it for money and for clicks, and that's where this is headed.
You've been widely attacked now by a lot of people who say that you're just a ghoul, a vulture. You're doing this deliberately. You're inventing things or just flying ludicrous conspiracy theories to make money. Now, again, Candace, I don't know that you are, but I do know.
Celebrity.
Can you not interrupt me? Oh,
I do think it's pretty rich. It's pretty rich coming from you is all I'm going to say. That's me putting it very nicely, given your background, your career, your celebrity involvement, the Princess Diana Wrong messenger is what I'll say right off the top. Okay. Wrong messenger. What you are mistaking, or I guess what not even mistaking, because you know what this is. You're talking about power versus the people. And you are always on the side of power first. You're on the side of the Israelis. It's so horrible. And, oh, I'm going to pretend I don't see tens of thousands of Gazans dying.
I've actually been very critical of the Israelis, as you know, in the last year.
Everybody
I've actually been very critical of the Israeli government.
Penis, okay? It's very easy to present photos of 30 years of your life. Brigitte keeps teasing, oh, I'm going to, Brigitte, nobody asked you for a blood test. We asked you for some photos and you refused to do it. And everybody knows that Charlie Kirk was not shot by Tyler Robinson on a rooftop. I am sorry that in this day and age, there seems to be such a shortage of testosterone that a woman has to be the person that states the obvious, right? I invite you to join me, and I know that you will by the end of next year, because they're not going to get away with what they did to my friend Charlie Kirk. And I am not going to change my mind, least of all when I am being called names by someone who has quite a year background and experience in doing things because it's lucrative and not always because it's sensitive.
Sure, you can call me a hypocrite as much as you want. I don't care. It's fine.
So there was a point that I didn't share because I didn't write the timestamp again. I worked 2 doubles. I'm a little tired. I just wanted to put a video out there. But there was a point in this video, guys. I suggest you watch it. It came out today, a couple hours ago. There was a time in the pod where Pierce Morgan, obviously he's giving her a hard time about the money that she's making, and basically the same talking points that Barry Weiss, like she's building her business on it. But there was a part where, sorry, my dog was barking. There was a part where she called him out, and she said, the difference between you and I hope you guys watch it because it was good. I didn't write the timestamp, so that's my fault. But there was a part where she said, the difference between you and I is that I don't mind asking the questions that nobody wants to ask and be controversial and be called crazy. And whereas you don't ask any questions, but when it comes out to be the popular opinion and it comes out to be right, then you join. And she brought up how she said a year ago today, I was on this very podcast, on this very show, and you gave me a hard time about the Israeli-Gaza conflict. And you were saying that Israel has this right to defend itself. And you were pretending that you didn't see like tens of thousands of kids dying. She goes, and then a year later, you see the truth. She goes, I'm the one that says it first. You're the one that joins later when it's popular opinion. So it was a pretty cool, guys. I'm sorry, this is 56 minutes long. I'm going to stop here, but watch this episode because she's actually on right now and I'm missing it because I'm recording. But watch this episode between Candace because it is the pod after the meetup, which means this is her first podcast on somebody else's show after her kind of disastrous show yesterday after the meeting with Erica Kirk. Please don't come for me. I'm super tired. I just want to get a quick video out there. But definitely watch it. It's going to be good. And I feel like Candace, I'm not giving up on her just yet. Like I said, I saw like 200 comments on her podcast. I'm unsubscribed. You played us. You sold out. How much was your check? How much was your money? Blah, blah, blah. I get it. I understand it, but I don't want to be there just yet. And I got to get ready for work. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care. God bless. Also, sorry for the pausing stuff. I think it's a cool feature. But I don't know how it's going to look, but later, guys.